It's hard to get used to Filipino lifestyle. It's crazy.
An American vlogger who decided to document his move to the Philippines reportedly was kidnapped in one of the country's most dangerous regions, and now, according to authorities, he is believed to be dead. We're digging into how an honest attempt to make it in a new place turned into a tragedy. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Elliot Eastman, a 26-year-old man from Vermont, was likely killed by kidnappers when he was abducted from his home in the southern part of the Philippines back in October. That was the announcement from the Philippine National Police after weeks of searching for this missing expat. Now, Eastman had been living in the Philippines since May. He had married a local woman named Alyssa, and it appears, based on his live streams, that he had opened a small grocery business at his home in the coastal town of Sibuco. Now, Eastman documented his new life in these live streams and videos on YouTube and Facebook, sometimes including Alyssa. And in the description for one of those videos, he wrote that he was the first and only foreigner to have ever lived in Sibuco for an extended period of time. But here's the thing. As time passed on, Eastman he seemed to get a little bit more wary of his surroundings and often mentioned kidnappings as a potential danger.
And if it comes to the point where it's like, all of a sudden I'm kidnapped and something's gonna happen to me, I'm gonna ask myself, I don't know.
Now, Carisha's family apparently lived in that same area, and back in August, based on what was said on the live streams, there was reportedly some drama involving Carisha's sister and her apparent decision to actually take down one of the pieces of plywood that it made up a wall of their home and store, which, as you can imagine what happened, it led to money being stolen from the store. And during one of his live streams, Eastman talked about this theft with someone who wasn't identified, but sounded like they could be someone who lived in the neighborhood.
We got robbed last night.
What?
Yeah, our store. I think maybe somebody climbed through here because we left our money here from our store. So I think either somebody came through here or they came to the door. I don't really know, but we were missing like 300.
Last night?
Yeah. Yeah.
As you just heard, he tells this person that 300 pesos were stolen. That's not a lot in U.S. currency. It's only about, $5? But it is significant in an impoverished country like that. And a question that has to be asked with what we're talking about right now is, was Eastman careful when it came to protecting his money or staying quiet about how much he might have at any given time? Now, as part of his live streams, Eastman often answered questions from people in the chat. And when one person mentioned wanting to move to the Philippines and also start a business, Eastman says if he could do it all over again, he might have done it differently.
Being here, and especially this is a new culture and everything, there's so many things that I'm running into the way with, like the bathroom smells like so bad. Like it smells like so bad. Right? So that's one thing. The other thing, though, the roof is leaking, getting all over my investment, getting all my things wet. The other day, my inverter just broke. That cost $100, so that's broken now. And then last night, somebody stole our money from our store. And now these waves are huge coming in. Like, if these waves get super huge, maybe they're gonna come up here and splash up on this Wi-Fi. We don't really know, but I don't know, dude.
And a month later, in September, Eastman admitted that he wasn't feeling very comfortable in the area.
But I feel like I've been staying in this area for so long to the point where I don't even know if people like me anymore. Maybe they want bad things to happen to me now. It's like, that's how I'm starting to think. So it's like, it's really not good. I don't really know, like, what would happen if somebody did try to come here and kidnap me, right? Would the neighbors help me, or would they just sit there and watch? Because it's gotten to the point where I've been here for so long that people are have become normalized for me in this area, and especially the family I'm living with, and I just don't know. Like, I get mixed feelings, so it's kind of like I'm at that point where that's how I'm feeling. So it's not good.
You know what makes that so eerie? It was just a few weeks after that, on October 17th, that Eastman went live for the last time on his YouTube page. And if you look at the video, he looks, in my opinion, very uneasy. He sits in silence for more than 5 minutes at the beginning of the stream, just sitting in a darkened room, eating fruit, spitting out the seeds. Eventually, someone from Australia starts watching and messages Eastman through the chat. And when that person asks for his thoughts on the Philippines, Eastman hesitates, but says there's some parts he likes, other parts he doesn't.
I'm just getting tired of being around all the same people.
Eastman logged off after about 20 minutes. And the very next night, according to what national police told the New York Times, Eastman's father-in-law told police that 4 men wearing black clothing, face coverings, they forced their way into Eastman's house. And it has been reported that the men may have been trying to disguise themselves as police officers. According to this father-in-law, Eastman resisted. He tried to run away, but he was shot in the leg with a rifle. The men then allegedly dragged him to a white boat and headed out to sea, and he hasn't been seen since. During their investigation, the national police told the New York Times that they spoke to a relative of one of the suspects who revealed that actually Eastman had been shot twice, once in the leg, once in the torso. When the alleged kidnappers got to the boat, they realized Eastman had died. So this witness apparently told police that they put his body in the water. Hey, by the way, before we go any further, I have to thank Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's Law and Crime YouTube takeover. Here's the truth. One of the most unpredictable things in life is if you get injured. That comes out of nowhere. And Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, that may be who you want on your side, because you know what? Your case could be worth millions of dollars. Morgan & Morgan, they have over 1,000 attorneys. They have a proven track record of winning big. Recently, they secured verdicts of $12 million in Florida, $26 million in Philadelphia, $6.8 million in New York, all far exceeding insurance offers in these cases. And even if your case isn't worth 7 figures, why not start a claim and get the money you deserve? And starting a claim is so easy. It takes 8 clicks or less. It can be done right from your smartphone, and it's free unless you win. So if you're hurt, visit forthepeople.com/YouTube takeover or click the link in the description and pinned in the comments. Now, because Eastman's body has never been found, police say it's difficult to prove whether what the witness is saying is true or not. There had been hope that perhaps Eastman was, being held somewhere, maybe for ransom. The FBI has even reportedly joined the search for him. This is according to outlets like The Sun. But then a few weeks after the abduction, police got into a shootout with multiple suspects. Authorities say 3 suspects were killed. Eventually, 1 suspect has been taken into custody. That's based on reporting. And this person reportedly corroborated what that witness had told police, saying that one of the men dumped Eastman overboard. A lieutenant colonel with the National Police told the Associated Press, "We are constrained to believe that he has died. All of the information that we have points to that." And according to the Daily Mail, a former mayor of the region told reporters that the kidnappers may have targeted Eastman because they believed him to be a rich American with lots of money. They may have also resented a foreigner living with a local Muslim woman, meaning his wife. And by the way, the suspect who's in custody apparently gave a sworn statement. It was handed over to prosecutors. And the police say Eastman's family back in the United States, they were notified of the 26-year-old's likely death by the U.S. Embassy. I want to talk about this more, and I want to bring on Tom Smith, retired NYPD detective. Tom, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. What do you make of local police making a public statement like this, that this young man is feared dead, and to make that announcement without the body is pretty significant, no?
It is, but when you have so much evidence and witness statements, and maybe one of the kidnappers that was involved in this given us a sworn statement as well, you come to a logical conclusion of his death, and you owe it to the family of this young man to give them the information of his possible death. And it's sad and it's tragic, especially living overseas, you run the risk of resentment, like you said, with his wife and other things. No matter what your status is in the United States, when you're in a foreign country, especially one like this, you're perceived as rich, no matter what your status is in the United States. And I think they fed off that. And that was the motive of this kidnapping.
As I mentioned, based on the reporting from The Sun, for example, they're saying FBI agents went there now to investigate. What role does the FBI play in this?
Well, they can lead that investigation because it's a U.S. citizen. And we have the responsibility, or the FBI has the responsibility of taking care of U.S. citizens, even on foreign soil. So they can run the investigation through the U.S. Embassy in that area.
Can they take any sort of action?
Sure. Oh, yeah. You can develop a case. It would probably be on the West Coast. Maybe the LA office might be running that in conjunction with U.S. Embassy. And whatever that United States Attorney's Office is in that area could open an investigation on this, especially that you have one person in custody. If you can really prove that that individual was part of this kidnapping, he can certainly be charged in the United States.
Can U.S. resources be used to potentially find Eastman's body? For example, if this story is true, and we hope that it's not, but if it's true and he was dumped in the water, can the Philippines accept U.S. resources, dive teams, things of that nature?
Yeah, they could, but you're talking about the South Pacific, and a number of months ago, the chances of finding him in that area are really, really very slim.
If this is true, if the attack and kidnapping went down like the way that I described, based on this reporting, what does it tell you about the suspects, the players, their training? Because the New York Post has come out and said that the suspects appeared to be common criminals who didn't belong to any Muslim rebel groups, which have been accused of ransom kidnappings in the past. So it makes me wonder, what is the level of experience, training to do something like this?
Yeah, when you're in such a lawless area like that, and the crime is extremely high, as is being reported, Abu Sayyaf is a major terrorist organization in that area. They may not have been directly involved, but could they train other people to do certain things and then take a cut of criminal activity? Sure, that could happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm sure will have to be explored about it. I thought what was interesting is this shootout, right? There is and correct me if I'm wrong, that is not something law enforcement wants to get into. Obviously, A, for the risk, but B, from an investigative point of view, if 3 people are killed who might have information, that is a loss to them, right?
Oh, most definitely, because, that's your information and that's your possible, listen, without a body, like you mentioned, Jesse, you always hold off hope. You have that 0.1% chance that he still might be alive. So to gather information from possible perpetrators is really important. And like you said, no one wants to get in a shooting, much less take out the possible kidnappers that can provide all the information about this.
What would be some signs to indicate to you that this story is not true? That, for example, he might have gotten shot, but he wasn't dumped in the river, dumped in the water, or that there might be more to the story. What would be some things you'd be looking out for?
Well, the first thing I thought of was usually with the kidnapping, especially if the perpetrators think this person comes from money, you're going to get a ransom demand immediately. That's going to be the very first thing, because this isn't somewhat violent driven, it's money driven. So the more you wait, the more you don't get your money. So you want to start those communications and that conversation pretty quickly after you grab someone for a kidnapping. So being that that didn't happen, even to this day, I understand the bad guys are dead and you have one in custody, but those communications never happened.
We still don't know exactly what happened, why it happened, but there is a question of, was he sharing too much on social media? And again, we don't know what's happening, but your thoughts on that. I played videos for you of some of his thoughts and some of the things he was saying to the world. If he really was kidnapped and killed, we don't know if the perpetrators had seen his social media or not, but it is a question I think you have to ask, right?
100%. I was actually thinking the same thing while I was watching the videos. The resentment can become very high level. Who do you think you are? You're a visitor. You're not from here. And now all of a sudden you think you're a superstar on social media. That can certainly play a part in this. And, the more and more people know where you are and what you're doing, the more attention you're going to bring to yourself. And when you're in a foreign land, in a crime-riddled area, those, dangers become more prevalent.
Do you think that the fact that his store, there were items that were stolen from his store, he talked about it, or 300 pesos was taken, do you think that's somehow connected to what happened to him? Because again, I find it so eerie that on that video, he's talking about his store getting robbed, and then he basically is like, I don't know what's going to happen if I were to get kidnapped. It's just so chilling, and it makes me wonder, is any of this maybe possibly connected?
Oh, it could be, sure. You could have, everyone's focused on just the word kidnappers. They could just be common criminals that broke into that store hoping to get money, didn't get enough, and then just escalated the crime to a kidnapping. thinking that this American would have more money in that area, in the store.
By the way, are kidnappings prevalent in that area?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Abu Sayyaf is very heavy, or was when I was in JTTF, into kidnapping. And a lot of terrorist organizations are, because it generates their funds. It generates money for their organizations.
In other words, people pay the ransom.
Oh, certainly. Absolutely.
And how does that work? Do they ever return the person over?
The ones that I have known about, they work out most of the time, but a lot of times they're not high profile grabs. And a lot of times they're not documented terrorist organizations. They're kind of splinter groups that associate with them in order to pull these off. But there are organizations that are heavy into kidnappings, for sure.
Just a really, really unfortunate situation. Look, I hope the police are wrong. Okay, I hope that the signs point to him being alive and that there's a mistake here or that there's misinformation being given, but we just don't know. And as you said, it's chilling to say we may not know what happened and we may not recover his body. It's a really, really sad situation and eerie looking at his last live streams about this. Tom Smith, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Jesse. Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.